Hello guys and girls, Psychosin here of That Metal Station, doing another one of these review things here on my YouTube channel, with the new format, which is just easier for me to make because generally I'm working 6 days a week. So yes, today we'll be reviewing this album right here, Resist by Within Temptation. Hopefully that's coming up fairly clearly on the camera when it's not going in and out of focus. Now, first of all, the fact that this album exists is somewhat a good sign. For those of you who have any passing interest in Within Temptation, or indeed the kind of symphonic goth metal scene, you'll be aware that it's been about 4 or 5 years since the last Within Temptation album, Hydra, which was a very, very good album indeed. A lot of guest spots on it as well, and I believe it done really well for them, but they toured that to the point of near exhaustion, I think, and weren't sure where to go next. In an interview with Metal Hammer magazine, they actually, like Sharon Den-Adele, the singer, actually brought up the fact that there was some serious discussion as to whether or not Within Temptation were even going to continue as a band, let alone do a new album. And then, sadly, I believe it was this year or last year even, keep forgetting in 2019, it's always a good start. Sharon Den-Adele unfortunately lost her father and released the really rather good, if extremely poppy, My Indigo album, which is just called My Indigo. Now, if you've not listened to the My Indigo album and you don't mind more commercial stuff, I recommend it. I mean, Sharon Den-Adele is in absolutely fine form there. It's not heavy. It's a very, very light, beautiful album, and very much in tune with what's in the sort of pop charts and that now. But yeah, it's a very brilliant album and one of my favourites of last year. But now we come on to this, Within Temptation's Resist. Now, this is a bit of a different album to what you may be used to. You're probably used to Within Temptation doing these big, kind of sweeping, orchestral sounds and all that, without much sort of influence from dance and the pop charts, while still maintaining a fairly commercial sound. Well, Within Temptation have gone, this is probably the most commercial stroke poppy album Within Temptation have done. And this now means I've reviewed 2 poppy albums in a row, when it's supposed to be a metal station, metal radio, metal YouTube channel, but there we go. Saying that, Within Temptation always had that commercial edge to them anyway. Anyway, with this album, 1 second. See if that'll, come on, camera, focus camera, do focus. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that. They've always had that commercial edge to them Within Temptation, which is where they've become one of the bigger goth bands in the world. Not here, well, here in the UK as well, but the UK charts don't really reflect that because the UK music charts are fucking awful, to be honest with you. But yes, and this has gone kind of a mix of the more dancey pop production. I mean, Within Temptation generally had really good production, but the sounds there, the more futuristic sort of sounds, come up on this album as opposed to the usual gothic orchestra, as it were, of their previous albums. Now they're kind of heading towards this on the last album, Hydra. Now they've gone all in with the concept of resisting man's ever marching forward into technology taking over our lives, which, well, technology has taken over our lives, but even more so. In fact, as I was grabbing a few, like the cover for this off of Google, apparently the story of this album is potentially being made into a film. It'll be interesting to see if that happens. But yes, back to this album. It kicks off with The Reckoning, which many of you probably already heard was the first single from the album, featuring Jacoby Shaddix of Papa Roach, a band many people probably didn't think were going to come out of the new metal era with any kind of dignity intact. But no, it's still going, still releasing fairly good albums. They've switched up into a hard rock, and Jacoby Shaddix's vocals mesh very, very well with the Within Temptation sound on this album, along with Sharon Den Adele's voice, and it's got to be said again, Sharon Den Adele throughout this album proving herself as one of the best vocalists in metal. I mean, she's absolutely stunning on this album. Then you come to Endless War, and Endless War is, and it might just be me with this track, but to me, Sharon Den Adele and this track does kind of come across a bit like a Rihanna song with guitars. I think it might just be me, but that's what come to mind as I was listening to it. Then we come to Raise Your Banner featuring Anders Frieden of In Flames. Now, I've got to be honest, I am not the biggest In Flames fan. I mean, Anders Frieden, his singing voice seems a little bit whiny to me. That's just my opinion. His growling voice is alright, and he does generally growl on this track, which gives the track another layer. And it doesn't overtake the track or anything. Sharon Den Adele's still the main star along with the band. And yeah, I mean, there's one more guest on this album as well, on the song Firelight, which is Jasper Steverlink. I have no idea who he is from. Didn't really look it up. I didn't really research this very well. I've literally just finished listening to the album. We also have Mad World, an excellent song, not a cover, not yet another cover, I should say, of the song that was on Donnie Darko, that's been covered to death. In fact, the last cover, I believe, was by Cellar Darling. Last cover I heard, anyway, was by Cellar Darling. Very good cover, don't get me wrong. But yeah, too many people have covered that song now. No, Mad World on this album, not a cover. It is its own thing, and one of the better songs on the album. Now, like I said, also Trophy Hunter, the last song on the album. And just to let you warn, this doesn't have a big swell into an ending of an album. No, the album just kind of ends. Like, just ends. Apropos of nothing. It doesn't sort of go into an outro, I think. The album just comes along for 47 minutes, does its thing, then just ends, which, to be honest with you, some older Within Temptation albums have had a tendency to maybe go on for maybe a little bit too long, maybe a couple more, too many songs. I mean, this is only 10 tracks long. Just noticed something on here. Apparently this is, for some reason my case says it came out in 2018, when this literally only came out last week here in the UK, so who knows. I think it was this week, sorry, not last week. Anyway, so all in all, this is a brave new step for Within Temptation to a somewhat newer sound, even more commercial sound. I mean, if this doesn't make them at least as big as Nightwish right now, I'll be very surprised. If they can get the right kind of radio stations who are willing to take a risk, listen to the songs and realise, okay, this isn't some really heavy band, this is a band that we can play during the day, they don't swear or anything, and we think like maybe, you know, this could be the second coming of the goth metal revival, as it were. Well, I say goth metal revival in the chart terms, as it were, and I'm speaking from the UK charts here. Then we could have Within Temptation leading the next wave of it, along with when Nightwish come out their new album, which I believe is this year. Kind of like we had with Evanescence back in the early 2000s, even though, before you tell me, I know Within Temptation have been going longer and are indeed the better band. But when it comes to Resist, all in all, very, very good album. I think the more I listen to it, the more I'm going to like it. On a first listen though, I'll give it 8 out of 10 for myself. Probably going up from that as I listen to it more, but this is based on literally a first listen that I've just finished listening to. I can't say there's any bad tracks on there, there isn't. There's a few tracks on there that I think may very well get stuck in my head. I mean, that Mad World song is going to get stuck in my head. And Endless War and Supernova will get stuck in my head. If you've listened to those songs, you'll know why they will get stuck in your head. So yes, 8 out of 10 from me. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you want to feel free to subscribe to the channel, please do. I'm trying to get a video out, at least one video, whether it be a review or a discussion or whatever, every week up on here. Also, if you want to become my Patreon, it's right there where you can click on and become my Patreon. And while on the subject of that, just want to say a big shout out to my one patron I have at the moment, Benedict Steer, otherwise known as Attic Ghost. Go check out his YouTube channel under the name Attic Ghost as well. He is really awesome YouTuber. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.